ಇದು ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಐತೆ
Good noon to all the participants and our eminent speaker, Dr. Rajendra Prasad Shukla. On behalf of Department of KV Chemistry, KVI IT, I welcome you all to the webinar on electrochemical microsystems for bioanalysis. With this, I would like to now introduce our speaker to the gathering. Good noon to all the participants and our eminent Dr. Rajendra Prasad Shukla is currently working as a scientist at the BIOS lab on chip research group at the University of Peking, Netherlands. Before joining BIOS research group, he was a postdoctoral researcher at Nanobioelectronics Laboratory, that is NBL, headed by Dr. Hedar Ben-Yo in the Department of Biomedical Engineering, Ben Gurion University, Israel. At NBEL, his postdoctoral research project was on the development of electrochemical patch sensors for the real-time health monitoring of soldiers. The project was funded by Medical Corps, Israel Defense Force. He completed his PhD thesis in the same lab. His PhD research was based on the development of electrochemical microsystem for antipsychotic therapeutic drug monitoring. He holds a master's degree in engineering in microelectronics from Birla Institute of Technology and Science, University, Hyderabad, and Bachelor's of Technology, that is BTech, in Electronic and Communication Engineering from Agra College, Agra, India. He has published more than 50 articles in internationally reputed journals, and his achievements involve the first demonstration of microelectrode modified with chitosan carbon nanotube for situ antipsychotic drug treatment monitoring at the point of care. In-situ detection of blood level of antipsychotic Clozapine in finger prick sample volume. Intelligent multi-electrode arrays as the next generation of electrochemical biosensors for real-time analysis of neurotransmitters. His academic and professional award involves, in 2019, University Central Grant for Outstanding PhD student to attend summer school at Denmark Technology University, August 18 to 30, Denmark. In 2019, Midway Nege Fellowship for Excellent PhD student, Ben Gurion University of Israel. In 2018, Erasmus Mobility Grant for summer school at Radboud University, Nijmegen, Netherlands. Selected as a visiting research student for Indian Nano User Program, Center of Excellence in Nano Electronics, Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, India. BITS scholarship for master students from Birla Institute of Technology and Science, Pilani University, Hyderabad campus. From 2008 to 2012, government fee waiver scholarship for outstanding students, Faculty of Engineering and Technology, Agra College, Agra, affiliated to Uttar Pradesh Technical University. With this small introduction of the speaker, I would like to now hand over the mic to the speaker. Any questions will be just typed in the chat box, which will be answered at the end of the session. Sir, the mic is with you.
Okay. So hello everyone, and good morning from Netherlands, and of course it is good afternoon and good noon in India right now. It is after 12. So and first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Professor Nagraj for giving me this opportunity to present my work here at this platform and in this webinar. So I'm Rajendra. I'm working as a scientist here at the BIOS Lab Ownership Research Group at University of Twente. And before joining here, I was a postdoctoral fellow at Bengal University of the Negev at the Nanobioelectronics Laboratory. So in my today's research, I will basically talk about my work that I have done in Israel. So the today's presentation topic is about the electrochemical microsystems for biomedical analysis. So in this presentation, I will basically discuss about the electrochemical sensors and its application for the monitoring of a specific analyte and also the diagnosis of some specific analyte in biofluids. In my today's presentation, I'm going to talk about specifically schizophrenia, a mental disorder, and current monitoring challenges of antipsychotic clozapine, which is used for the treatment of schizophrenia, and electrochemical sensors as the possible solution for the monitoring of clozapine blood level in the patient sample. So in order to cover these things, I'm also going to talk about in detail the technology that we have developed that is called multi-electrode array technology, and I will talk about in detail the design and microfabrication of this setup. And also then I will talk about the detection of antipsychotic clozapine using single electrode and using the multi-electrode array setup. And I will show you some data from the patient sample that we have got recently and published also. And if time allows, then I will also discuss about a short project that is the detection of dopamine levels in undiluted urine sample. And later on, I will summarize my talk at that. Schizophrenia is a severe mental disorder that affects around 1.1% population worldwide. It affects how a person thinks and behave. Clozapine is one of the most effective medication used for the treatment of schizophrenia. However, it is underutilized because of its adverse side effects that include weight gain, changes in the sugar levels, and also severe other problems that are related to liver and nervous systems. Therefore, there is an urgent need for the therapeutic drug monitoring of this clozapine, and that can be done rapidly and at the point of care, and also that can be done whether at the physician's office or at the patient's home. The current state of the technology uses liquid chromatography followed by the mass spectroscopy to analyze clozapine blood levels into the patient sample. However, this technology uses sophisticated instruments and requires trained individuals to analyze clozapine blood levels. Not only that, apart from admitting the patient and getting the reports from the centralized lab, it is a kind of time-taking process. So overall, this technology is adding kind of burden to the patient in terms of treatment cost and also time. So in order to address all these challenges, we need to have a technology that can address all the challenges of the current state of the art and also reduce the cost also of the treatment. In the recent past, electrochemical lab-on-a-chip devices and microsystems have shown great potential that can, overcome the challenges that I have highlighted before the slide, and they can provide the ultimate solution for the treatment and monitoring of the disease. More recently, there is a electrochemical lab-on-a-chip device and a microsystem that has been reported about the John A. Rogers group. And that is a kind of patch sensor that was attached to the skin, and that with many sensors on it, and it was hello.
Yeah.
It is moving. I don't know if someone is moving. I mean, it is automatically moving. My slides are.
One second.
It is from your side, I think.
Can you stop the annotations in your view options? Is that happen now? Means you have to go to the view option, and you can stop the.
I don't know. Someone else is controlling the slides. I'm not.
Yeah, because you have allowed the other persons to have the changes. Can you? Oh, YouTube is not live.
Dr. B R Gupta OP, Dr. B R Gupta OP, Dr. B R Gupta OP.
You can share the screen again, or just.
Yeah, की प्रेम कहानी नहीं होती। बहुत छोड़ी के
Yeah, can you please unmute your mic, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And can you share the screen, sir, now?
Yeah. Is it fine?
Yes, you can just.
Yeah. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay. So I can proceed now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, these are, the digital platform, so we have to deal with all these things. Yeah. So so in the recent past, these electrochemical lab-on-a-chip devices, they have been reported, and they have shown a great potential, and they can address the challenges that we have seen in the the current state of the art. So for example, this kind of lab-on-a-chip patch sensor that has been reported, and that can analyze the labels, the lactic labels, and the chloride and glucose, and also that can manage the pH levels, and that can provide a real-time information about the health of the human being. And not only that, there has been a lot of reports about this kind of patch sensors and wearable devices, and that can be skin mounted and attached to the human body, and can monitor the levels of certain analyte, and can provide the real-time information about the human health. Clozapine is a redox active molecule, meaning that it can receive and donate electron during the electrochemical reaction. Therefore, electrochemical sensors can be used for the detection of this analyte. So in this slide, I will show you some of the recent development in the detection of electrochemical sensors for the detection of clozapine, and I will show them in terms of sample complexity, the sample volume, and the time that it takes to prepare the sample. So here, the Sumsis group, they have reported about the clozapine detection in buffer samples using a nickel oxide and graphene quantum dot modified glassy carbon electrode, and then they use this kind of platform to recover the clozapine level in the diluted serum samples. In the similar way, there is another group, Tamari's group. They have used the iron oxide and the palladium modified glassy carbon electrode to detect clozapine in buffer samples, and then use that for the recovery of clozapine in spiked diluted serum samples. At Maryland, the EKIMS group, they have reported about the detection of this clozapine in serum samples, it was in a milliliter sample volume. So, to monitor the clozapine levels, we require, frequent blood draws from the patients. So it is also not good if you are taking bloods from your patients, that can also create more problems for the patient. So what we need, basically, we need a technology that can monitor clozapine blood levels in the patient samples without using any pretreatment stuff, and can provide a rapid information about the labels. However, there are some challenges associated with the current electrochemical sensor. For example, if you plan to detect clozapine levels into the biofluids, for example, serum or whole blood, so what it does, basically, when we have the electrochemical sensor generated from the antipsychotic and the electrochemical sensor generated from the interfering species, they are going to interfere with the electrochemical signature of clozapine and generating overlapping electrochemical signature, where it is become hard to differentiate the labels, whether it is coming from clozapine or whether it is coming from interfering species. In the recent past, there is another class of sensor that is called electronic tongue that has been used to detect certain redox analyte in fluids, for example, environmental samples and the food samples. What it does, basically, it consists of partially selective array of sensors, and that is combined with machine learning algorithms that is used to process the electrochemical data set generated from this kind of sensor array. And this kind of approach has been highly sensitive and smaller to non-preparation steps, and it has been cost effective also, and reduce the effect of interfering species. However, integrating this kind of stuff into a lab on a cheap, portable, and cost-effective device, it has been a challenge. And also, this kind of thing, the literature is very less for the detection of certain analyte in biofluid, for example, in urine or in serum or saliva or something like that. In order to overcome the challenges of this interfering species and to increase the specificity and selectivity, the nanomaterials, for example, 2D nanomaterials has been used widely because of their advantages and better characteristics. For example, high conductivity, SFO modification, and large surface area. In the recent past, this kind of electrode modification has been used in the macro scale case also, but they use a photolithography technique to pattern and modify the microelectrodes onto the gold electrodes. And also, this 2D material MS2 has also been used for the detection of analyte, for example, ascorbic acid and dopamine and uric acid. The selective integration of this kind of nanomaterials into lab-on-a-chip devices has been challenged because in a macro scale case, the electrochemistry is different, but when you move from macro scale to micro scale, there are certain effects that come into picture, and also because of the smaller size, you need to take care of the parameters and you have to decide them very carefully. So we have hypothesized that a multi-electrode array, microelectrode array, modified with different electrocatalytic nanomaterials, for example, platinum black and catechol carbon nanotube, reduced graphene oxide, and other materials. And this kind of modified microelectrode array can be used for the detection of certain analytes in biofluid, for example, serum or whole blood. And the electrochemical data set recorded from this kind of sensor array is going to be analyzed using chemometric models to predict certain analyte level into the samples. So this is our hypothesis. So now I will talk about how I achieved this kind of goals that I set before of this multi-electrode array platform. So the first aim is to develop a micro-electrode array platform. So what we did basically, we designed a mask. So for that we use CAD tools, and we draw those masks, and this is our typical chip. This is how it looks like, and it has around 24 microelectrodes into it, and there has been 3 layers in this kind of electrode array chip. And the one, this layer is defining the active surface area of each microelectrode specifically. And here this defines the chamber, fluid chamber of this chip, and also the contact area, because that should be open for the measurements. And then what we did basically, we printed it onto a certain transparent thin film and attached it onto the glass wafer for further processing into the nanofab to microfabricate the devices using this kind of mask. So in order to microfabricate the first layer, which is made of gold microelectrodes, so what we started with the cleaning of the substrate, which is glass substrate, 4-inch glass wafer. And then we spin coated a photoresist, that is a photosensitive material, onto it. And after that, we pattern it using our mask that you can see here. This is our mask. And then we expose it to UV light. And by development in a certain solution, we got this kind of photoresist pattern onto it. And then we deposited titanium and gold on it. The titanium is a very thin layer which is used for the adhesion into the between the gold and the substrate. And after the lift off process, we achieved this kind of the microelectrode array chip onto the glass substrate that you can see here into the picture. So during this process, there has been various parameters to optimize, and we did it very nicely, and we achieved 100% yield for this kind of microelectrode array chip microfabrication. So the second layer is also now we have here the gold microelectrodes onto the glass substrate, and you have your chip. Now we have to define the effective surface area of each microelectrode in this kind of platform. So here we again did the photolithography with different kind of photoresist material, which is negative photoresist, and then we got this kind of patterns onto it that shows that our active area is open here. And then another layer to define another, using photolithography to define this fluid chamber and also the contact surface area. So another layer of photolithography that resulted in this kind of microelectrode array chip, where you have all the chambers open and the big chamber is for the fluid to stay over there. So this kind of design had 23 this small microelectrodes into it, and one, this is the big microelectrode in the middle that is going to be used as a counter electrode. So far I talked about how I designed and microfabricated this kind of chip, and now I will talk about the microelectrode modification, how I modified them, because that's the next step to prepare the sensor array chip. So I'm not going to talk about all the modifications that I have used in this kind of sensor array design, but I will talk about 1 or 2 out of them. And if you have any question about the modification of the microelectrode, you can always ask me. So the first modification is about modifying the microelectrode with chitogen carbon nanotube. So what we did basically, we had the platform that we can use that using a dip method and modify many electrodes altogether, or we can use a specific electrode and put a certain microliter volume of sample solution and modify it very fast. So you can do in both the ways. So the mechanics is very simple. A small amount we use here a chronopotentiometry technique, where a cathodic current is applied to the working electrode that allows proton generation to the solution, and by that the deposition of the chitogen happens to the gold microelectrode interface. Another modification is about modifying the microelectrodes with reduced graphene oxide, and here I have used cyclic voltammetry technique, and for that and the solution was graphene oxide and NaCl. NaCl was used as an electrolyte. So what happens basically in the first half of the cycle, the gold surface was activated from the chloride ions, And in another half of the cycle, you know, in the graphene oxide, we have negative functional group present, and they are going to be attracted to the activated cold surface. And when we have the negative scan, these negative functional group are going to be repelled away from the surface and leaving behind the carbon layer onto it. So here you can see in the picture the modified microelectrode with different number of cycles. In cyclic voltammetry, we have two very important parameters, that is the number of cycles and the scan rate, how fast we do this kind of process and how many number of cycles we use to modify them. So as we increase the number of cycles, as you can see, the accumulation of the material is increasing. For the 5 number of cycles, it is looking more dark. So the more material is over there. So this is our modified microelectrode array chip that you can see here with all the materials modified and integrated into it, and also our reference electrode HAGCl. So we did it by electroplating of the gold microelectrode, the silver silver chloride solution. So this is how our sensor array platform looks like. And this is the platform that we use for the recording of electrochemical data from this kind of sensor array chip. So we use e-beam potentiostat which has multi-channel, and this kind of micro platform where we placed our 1.5 centimeter by 1.5 centimeter chip here, and then connected to the external word here, you can see here, and then we can record the electrochemical data, and we can place our sample solution in the middle. So now comes the electrochemical characterization of this kind of sensor array. So this shows the electrochemical, cyclic voltammogram recorded in 5 millimolar ferricyanide solution. This is Redox probe, standard solution. And here you can see the different labels of the oxidation and reduction currents. That is because of different electroactive surface area from differently modified microelectrode, which is going to be good for our case that I will show you later. So we also tested the intra-chip reproducibility of this kind of sensor array, because for each modification we have 3 electrodes into the chip, and we tested and we found that the standard deviation is below 10%, which is good. So far I talked about just the development part, how we microfabricated and how we selectively modified the microelectrodes into this kind of microelectrode array chip. And then we have here, now I'm going to talk about the detection of antipsychotic clozapine, and also one more drug I will show you that is called olanzapine, using single modified microelectrode. So in that case, I will talk about hydrogen carbon nanotube modified microelectrode and reduced graphene oxide modified microelectrode for clozapine detection, and platinum black modified microelectrode for olanzapine detection. So here in the screen, you see here the detection of clozapine in 20 microliter volume of buffer sample, which was spiked with these kind of levels of clozapine into it. And this is showing the recorded differential pulse voltammogram, which records the oxidation of the specific molecule, redox molecule, using bare gold microelectrode. And this is showing you the differential pulse voltammogram recorded using hydrogen carbon nanotubes. So here in this picture, you see there are 2 peaks. The first peak is because of the byproduct of the clozapine. That is from the literature that we took. And here it is the oxidation of the clozapine. And this is with using hydrogen carbon nanotube modified microelectrode. You see a clear and distinct peak used for the clozapine oxidation. From there, we plotted a dose response plot and calculated the limit of detection and sensitivity. So for the bare, you can see here the limit of detection is 1.21, and for the hydrogen carbon nanotube modified microelectrode, the limit of detection is 0.08. So it is almost 10 times lower, and the sensitivity is also very high as compared to the bare microelectrode, meaning that our hydrogen carbon nanotube modified microelectrode has a better sensing performance as compared to the bare. So we also tested the electrocatalytic activity and how modifying the microelectrode with hydrogen carbon nanotube is going to affect the electrochemical behavior. So for that, we took certain, redox species, 4-5 molecules that have a very close redox potential as clozapine, and we characterize this kind of the effect of modifying the macroelectrode with calcium carbonate nanotube in terms of shift in the peak potential, and also in terms of the shift in the peak current density. So here you can see with clozapine there is a highest shift in the peak potential, and also there is a shift in the peak current density, that is change in peak current density that is around 2.5 times, meaning that calcium carbonate nanotube modified macroelectrodes is highly selective for this clozapine. This slide shows you the effect of interfering species. So we characterize the interference magnitude by recording the differential pulse voltammogram and calculating the shift in the peak potential and percentage change in the current density. So what we did basically, we recorded the differential pulse voltammogram alone of these molecules and then mix these molecules with different interfering species with clozapine. So here you can see with uric acid the shift is highest, and also the change in the percentage change in the current density is also highest, meaning that this is the major interfering species which is going to affect the clozapine signature in the measurement. So after all, we had a lot of experiment after this, and we tested the clozapine performance using calcium carbonate tube modified macroelectrodes and in a different solution, and also in serum samples that are not going to show. I'm just showing you here. We detected the clozapine in 20 microliter volume of whole blood, which was spiked with different clozapine concentration. So the first figure shows you the detection with Bayer. So here you don't see any dose response. For example, the Bayer macroelectrode was not able to differentiate between different clozapine concentration because of the high complexity and the fouling effect generated from the whole blood. However, here we see some dose response at 0.2 volts, and we compared it with the buffer, and we calculated the limit of detection, which is 0.5. Again, it is below the clinical range, which is 1 to 3 micromole per liter. So this kind of macroelectrode modification can be used for the detection of clozapine. So later on, we also tested the performance of our developed microelectrode modified with calcium carbonate nanotube for the detection of clozapine labels into the patient samples. So what basically we did, we took the patient sample before the treatment before giving clozapine, and after the 2 months of the clozapine dose, we also taken the samples. So the samples without clozapine were used to make this kind of dose response plot, and then the samples after 2 months of the clozapine dose were used to recover using this kind of dose response plot. So we selected basically 10 patient samples, and with 9 males and 1 female, and with the averages of 39.5 years. So here you see that from 2 to 9, the recovered levels are very close to 100%, which is very good. That means that our sensor is able to recover the levels of clozapine with high accuracy. And these 2 patients that you see here, patient number 1 and patient number 2, they have a very high deviation from that. So this we try to search why this is happening. So we find the reason that in female patients, the label and the metabolic label, they have a high variability as compared to the men's. And also the guys, those who do smoking and all, they also have the variability in the metabolic labels. So these 2 patients belong to that category. Again, we also tested the same thing in the whole blood samples of the patient, which is more complex. And this study was in capillary plasma samples. And this I'm going to show you in whole blood. That requires no pre-treatment step. Just you take sample from the patient and do the measurements. So here also you see these 2 patients. They have been crazy, and the results were highly variable, and they have been out of the range. So this was the reason, because one of them is female candidate, and the other one is having the smoking activity. So Apart from that, we also address one more variability because we use hydrogen carbon nanotube as an electrode material, and in that the hydrogen is a biopolymer which has a net structure, and the material and the molecules, and when you put the solution onto, they are going to stuck and may give you some variability because of that. So we're looking for some other material which is much more stable than the hydrogen carbon nanotube. So we explored the reduced graphene oxide as a material modification, and we checked this performance also. We characterize in detail, and here I'm just showing you the detection of clozapine in whole blood using reduced graphene oxide modified microelectrode. So the limit of detection is bit higher as compared to the hydrogen carbon nanotube modified microelectrode, which has 0.5, and here we have 0.6 micromole per liter. However, it has some interesting characteristics that I will show you. It has shown a very high, repeatability. That is around 88% of the electrochemical signal, which was retained after 10 repeats, and very high reproducibility for 5 measurements of clozapine spiked whole blood sample, and that was around 3.6 RSD value, relative standard deviation. And also the RGO modified macroelectrode has a very high storage stability. Even one of my friend has characterized in Israel that I did modified the macroelectrodes 1.5 years before. So he just checked the electrochemical performance and it was working good. So you can then imagine how good it can be with the RGO modified macroelectrodes. So we were not limited to clozapine only because there are other class of antipsychotic drugs. They are Redox active, and we explored also the platinum black modified macroelectrode for the detection of olanzapine, and that has been used. And here we found a very nice performance using platinum black modified macroelectrode, and we detected olanzapine below its therapeutic range, and we found the limit of detection around 28.6 nanomolar in undiluted serum samples in a 20 microliter volume of samples. So far I talked about the detection of clozapine and olanzapine using a single electrode, and I also talked about the challenges that they have, the variability and maybe the falling and the other effects. Now I'm going to talk about our developed approach, that is the multi-electrode array approach. And for that, what we did basically, we used 20 microliter sample volume, and we recorded the electrochemical data simultaneously from these kind of samples, one by one, buffered samples, synthetic serum and undiluted serum and whole blood samples. And then we process the data, and we use PLSR, partial least square regression analysis, to predict the labels by training that algorithm. And later on, we use the patient sample data to train and test our model and to check the model performance. So I'm not going to show all of the results. I will show some of them. So here I will show you the first result, that is synthetic serum. So for that we used 29 species, and we mixed them. We prepare a synthetic serum solution, and we spiked clozapine into it in a 20 microliter volume sample, and we recorded the electrochemical data set. Here you can see this data is actually I separated this data because in the modification that I have shown you, there is a modification called platinum black, which has a very high electroactive surface area, and that is giving it very high current. So in order to visualize them clearly, I differentiated them. And also this was a limitation of the machine itself, because when you record this together, this signal is going to be act as a noise for this kind of very high electrochemical signal. So we recorded them separately just to have clear electrochemical signature. And then we use a PLSR model to train and test and the performance. And here, this figure shows you the press versus the factor. The factor is the Latin variable. So in this kind of algorithm, PLSR algorithm, what it's going to do, it transforms these variables into different set of variables to represent the maximum, the variance of the total data set. And press is the predicted residual error sum of a square that shows the minimum that you can detect without error. So from this kind of linear fit, we got the limit of detection, which is 0.24, better than the single electrode, which was around 0.5 with the hydrogen carbon nanotube modified one, meaning that this kind of sensor array approach is highly sensitive. We also tested our model performance for the prediction of 2 micromolar and 4 micromolar spike samples, and we got very close values. And this kind of the variation that you see, because this is a very small data set. In this kind of algorithm, basically we require a big data set. So now I will show you some results from the patient sample using this kind of multi-electrode array concept. So this data that you see on the screen is the electrochemical data recorded from this kind of multi-electrode array from capillary plasma samples of 10 patient samples. And these patient samples that we obtained from Maryland Psychiatric Hospital from our collaborator, Professor Diana Kelly. So this again is showing you the differential pulse voltammogram recorded from all the patients using platinum black modified microelectrode. And here we have rest of the modification, hydrogen carbon nanotube, RGO, and all those things. And this is the electrochemical signature resulted from the 10%, all the patients with different repeats and all into it. This is from capillary plasma. Now we have capillary blood. So from here, you see that there is a high variability because of the complexity of the whole blood is higher than the plasma. So, and also the labels that you can see, the amplitude is lower as compared to the capillary plasma samples, because the complexity is of course high because proteins and everything is there. They are, generating high fouling effects onto the electrode surface. So again, we use this PLSR model. So for that, we use 80% of the data from all the data to train the model, to build this kind of PLSR model, and then 20% of the data to predict the model performance. So here again, this 4 number of latent variables, 3 number of latent variables gives you the minimum error value for the press, and they can represent the maximum and the whole variance of the total electrochemical data set. And the press value is calculated as 1.5 nanogram per milliliter, and the limit of detection is 7.3 plus minus 2.1 nanogram per milliliter, which is very low and very good performance using this kind of multi-electrode array setup. And as I said, I used 20 microliter volume sample of capillary plasma, and we have this kind of labels in nanogram per milliliter, and we use this kind of 10-point adjacent averaging filter to smooth the data before loading it into this kind of PLSR algorithm. Not only that, we also tested the model performance for the prediction of the 450 nanogram per milliliter, and we received 441 nanogram per milliliter with this kind of standard deviation, which is very close into it. And also we got 139 nanogram per milliliter for the prediction of 131 nanogram per milliliter. So that means our model and this kind of electrode, multi-electrode array, sensor array platform is showing a better sensing performance and allows us to predict clozapine level in 20 microliter sample volume of the patient sample. So we were not limited to this plasma sample only. We also did the same thing for the whole blood, because we also try to avoid any kind of pre-treatment step involved, because we do some centrifugation to achieve the plasma sample from the whole blood samples. So the same stuff that we followed earlier. So here we got the limit of detection of 12.6, it's higher than that because of the complexity that you can say. And also we tested the model performance for the prediction of again 440, and we got 438 with higher variance, and 146 for the 131 is kind of over fitting. So it's because of a small number of data set, but still this kind of concept allows us to predict closely with this kind of standard deviation and all, and we can further optimize this kind of algorithm, and also with certain modification to the platform that can give us the repetitive and more repetitive results that can increase the sensing performance and capability, and can be further integrated into point-of-care devices and platforms for the monitoring of clozapine into the patient samples. So far I talked about, basically it was my PhD project, and I had done some side project with that also for the prediction of dopamine levels and in undiluted urine samples. So basically our target was to detect dopamine, and we were looking for detecting in the range for the patient with neuroendocrine tumors and paragangliomas. So the levels in the urine, they are in the order of tens of micromolar. So they are a bit higher as compared to the other disease. For example, if we are focusing on Parkinson and other disease where the levels are in nanomolars. So our target was this, to detect the levels in urine samples. So here in the screen, you see three kind of electrodes. The first one is bare microelectrode. The second one is a chitogen modified microelectrode, and the third one is chitogen carbon nanotube modified microelectrodes. And these electrochemical data set is just for the one repeat. We have many repeats for this, and that you see here with different the labels, the amplitude also, and also shift, and also you can see here there is another peak appearing with the chitogen carbon nanotubes. Look at this high electrocatalytic activity that you can see. So with different electrochemical we have here. So we use this kind of data set again to train the algorithms. So we have used two kind of algorithms here: the ANN artificial neural networks, and also the PLSR, the basic one. PLSR is basically a linear model, and the ANN is a bit complex than this, and it's a non-linear model. So we use these kind of two tools, that algorithms that we had, and try to check the performance of our sensor array that we developed for the detection of dopamine in undiluted urine samples. So using ANN model for the test set, we have here the RMSE, that is the error. Residual means some square error, that is very low, 1.15, and the limit of detection is 4.2 micromolar. Basically, for this kind of analysis, we have hundreds of samples, and they were spiked with 0 to 10 micromole per liter into the healthy volunteers' urine samples. They were spiked, and around 100 samples were used in this study, and with different labels and different combinations. And we got this kind of performance that allows us to predict the dopamine levels into the undiluted urine samples. And with these kind of two models, we see that using ANN model, we have a better performance as compared to the PLSR model. So to sum up this talk, I would say that I have shown you here, and I hope I convince you that we have successfully integrated 2D materials, 2D and non-2D electrocatalytic material into the microscale electrodes. And we also modified the microelectrodes with chitogen carbon nanotubes and reduced graphene oxide for the detection of clozapine. And this kind of electrode modification allows us for the detection of clozapine below the clinical range. Our reduced graphene oxide modified microelectrode has shown a better sensing performance in terms of repeatability, reproducibility, and the storage stability in a spiked whole blood samples of the volume of 20 microliter. Our platinum black modified microelectrode allows us detecting olanzapine below the therapeutic range. And when we integrated all of them, our sensor array allows predicting clozapine level in a finger-pricked microliter sample volume of whole blood of patient samples, schizophrenia patient samples, and we got a nice results for that. We also use the chitogen carbon nanotube and bare microelectrode sensor array for the detection of dopamine levels in undiluted urine samples. And we will also have been able to predict the dopamine level nicely. Last but not the least, I would like to thank my research group at Nanobioelectronics Laboratory, and especially my PI, Dr. Hadar Ben Yoab, and the other partners of the project, specifically Professor Diana Kelly, who supplied us with the sample, schizophrenia patient sample. And we were funded with the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. and I would like to thank them as well, and also the Kreitman Graduate School for giving me this excellent PhD fellowship that is called NEGEV Fellowship, and also the facilities of nano and microfabrication at INSCAR's Institute of Nanoscale Science and Technology at Bengaluru University of the NEGEV. I would like to thank all of them for being part of this kind of fascinating research. And also, I would like to thank all of you audience for joining me in numbers and for listening me. And if you have any questions, you can also write me on these email addresses. And I am open for any kind of research discussion and also open for any kind of collaboration possibilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It was a really great presentation on electrochemical microsystem for bioanalysis. Since I am also working on a sensor field, it was helpful for me to learn a lot of things from you. So the session is open for questions, and before we enter for that, I'd just like to confess that the account was just been hacked, and for that reason, some uneven messages were delivered in the chat box. We are really sorry for that, and we have controlled.
Yeah.
So there are some questions that were typed in the chat box. The first question is there any effect of thickness of modifier in electrochemical analysis, and how to control the thickness of modifier on microelectrode?
Yeah, so basically when you do it depends also in techniques. When you use certain techniques, for example, I use electrochemical cyclic voltammetry technique. For example, I show you here, I think here, yeah, this one. As I said, there are some certain parameters. For example, in cyclic voltammetry, we have number of cycle, scan rate, potential range, all those things are they are the parameter to control. So the number of cycle and the scan rate, they are the two major parameters. They decide the thickness of the modifier surface. For example, the thickness of the reduced graphene oxide is going to be decided by the number of cycles and also the scan rate, how fast you scan. You cannot even use a very fast scan rate. I mean, that may destroy your electrode itself.
So the second question is again related with the thickness. Does any experimental work done on the optimization of modifier thickness?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I did a lot of optimization stuff. Basically what I did for this one, I used different number of cycles, different scan rate, and for each one of them, we also did the electrochemical, we recorded the electrochemical characteristics. For example, signal to noise ratio also, and we also use AFM to measure the thickness. I think if I will have results, I can show it. I think I have those results. To show it, I mean, how it has happened. Yeah, you can see here. With this one, the signal to noise ratio is, the peak oxidation current recorded in February divided by the oxidation current recorded in buffer solution. So that is kind of signal to noise ratio. So with the 3 number of cycles, you can see here, the signal to noise ratio is better. And also in the scan rate, also around 100, that is giving us the better signal to noise ratio performance. So from there, we did it.
So the third question is, how about fast scan cyclic voltammeter for bioanalysis?
I didn't try it yet, but yeah, people have been using that technique also for doing the fast scan and all those things. So, I mean, I have not tried that. So, I mean, people are using, I have seen, so maybe I need to explore that.
So one question from my side.
Yeah, please.
As the thickness goes on increasing, it may have some resistance level and can affect the sensitivity of the device.
Yeah, actually, when you increase the thickness, you have not only the resistance, you have also the capacitive effect is going to increase. That is, going to decrease your signal to noise ratio. Because when your surface area is increasing, your background capacitive current is going to increase. So that will, reduce the sensing performance. So that will affect. So there are many things to explore with this micro scale case. So that you have to check and optimize it.
Thank you, sir. The presentation was wonderful.
Thank you.
And I would now like to request our head of the department, Dr. Nagaraj Shetty, to present the vote of thanks.
Thank you.
So, good afternoon, everyone. It gives me an immense pleasure to thank everyone for participating in the webinar. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Rajendra Shukla for his nice presentation. And in spite of his busy schedule, he agreed to us and made this webinar a successful one. Thank you, Dr. Rajendra Shukla ji.
Thank you. Thank you.
I thank all the participants for attending this webinar. I also thank faculty of Department of Chemistry, Professor Balchandra sir, then Mandesh, and principal and all the KLIT staff for their support and making this event a grand successful. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you.
With this, we come to an end of the webinar. Thank you all.
Feedback link ಇದೆ sir.
Yes.
So ಅದೊಂದು
The feedback link will be sent to you. Just as you fill up the feedback, you will receive the certificates.
ಅದನ್ನ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಲಿಂಕ್. Yeah, sir. I haven't stopped.